My name is Lieutenant Jeff, Jeff Baxter, Baxter, and I'm the commander of the Atlanta Police Department's Special Victims Unit. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. So today I wanted to give an update as it relates to the abandoned child incident that we subsequently did an investigation into on behalf of our Special Victims Unit. So as you're aware, there was a child that was abandoned 2 days ago. It was left at a random doorstep over in our Zone 1 section of the city. And before I get into the details, I just want to say that the most important part of the story that we need to understand is that on September the 2nd at 11:30 p.m., there was a healthy baby girl born, 5 pounds, 13 ounces, and by the grace of God, a Good Samaritan was able to open the door that night and safely take that baby in. There were so many things that could have gone wrong with that. Just when you leave, if you think about leaving a baby at a random house at 1 o'clock in the morning, knocking on the door and leaving, you know, that child could have been outside and any number of different things could have happened to that baby. From weather to animals to you name it. And then what if nobody opened the door? What if nobody was home? What if, I mean, there's so many different things that play out. So that is the most important part of the story, that this baby girl was born and that she was safe. So that's the first thing I wanted to make sure that I relate to you. Now, subsequently after that, the mother ended up speaking with us. And in those conversations, she advised us that she was homeless, that she was desperate, and she didn't know what else to do, and that is why she abandoned the child. When our special victims investigators made contact and spoke with her, we were able to determine that that was not true. In fact, she was lying about that. And in fact, she is a 22-year-old that lives at home with her mother, has a job, and did not want to reveal to her mother that she was pregnant is the story that we got. So initially when she made the outcry that she was homeless and desperate, our first concern was obviously the baby first, but her second. So our special victims advocates, volunteers at Grady Hospital, DFACS all came together to try to provide this young mother with shelter, with resources and everything else, only for all of us to be turned upside down and learning that that was not true. So obviously, you know, that's something that she needs to answer for. She's been charged criminally for her conduct. And so she's been charged with cruelty to children, reckless conduct, and making false statements. It's unfortunate. It's sad. Obviously, it didn't need to be this way. This is not the way we wanted it to be. And then the other thing I think is important to relay to the public is that Georgia has a safe haven law, where under Georgia law, anyone can bring a baby to a police station, a fire station, a medical facility, and hand over a baby with no questions asked. And so it's important that people understand that. As opposed to a random house on a random street on a random doorstep at 1 o'clock in the morning. So again, we're just thankful that the child is safe, and the message that we want to convey is that there's laws in place. If you are desperate and you're in that situation, there are places to go to be able to give over a child. And so that's kind of what we wanted to get across today. Are there any questions I can take at this time?
How did you find the mother?
So the mother ended up reaching out to us and speaking to us, and subsequently we went to her and got with her and sat down and interviewed her. So that's kind of how things unfolded. Our investigators did a good job in finding her, and again, that's when we go back to, oh my God, you're homeless, you're desperate, let's try to figure out resources to help you out. And that's the direction we were taking initially.
And how did that story unravel?
So, I mean, just in interviewing her and sitting down with her and going over step by step things that took place, some things didn't make sense. And we have some very good investigators that were able to be compassionate, but at the same time, try to get all the facts out. And so that's what took place.
So when she first called, was she like, I saw it on the news, I just want to ask if the baby's okay? Or did she come right out and say, that's my baby, I'm homeless, I couldn't take it?
So, right, so after so the child, we believe, was born around 11:30 p.m. on the 2nd. And then at 1 a.m. in the morning on the 3rd is when the Samaritan at the house where the child was left abandoned called us. Now, fast forward to around 5 a.m., which is when the mother contacted us and said, hey, I'm the one that left the baby, and this is my story. I'm homeless, I'm desperate, this is my situation. And so after calling, we then got with her and began to try to want to help her. And again, that's the direction that we started to go in. And then subsequently after that, it was discovered that that was not in fact true. She was living at home with her mother, and that's where we got to that.
Does she have a criminal record at all?
I don't know her criminal record. That is something that we did look at. I do not have that with me here.
Did
Lieutenant,
she
how
say
is the
why?
baby doing, and how, now that you've found the mother, because that isn't often the case, how, if you can say, might that affect, does the child go back to perhaps the grandmother, or does the child remain in DFACS custody?
Right. So that's a great question. I mean, obviously, when something like this happens, there's an outpouring of compassion. Everybody wants to jump in. I want to jump in. I mean, but ultimately, that's for DFACS to decide what the custody is how that is going to take place. I believe that DFACS now has the primary custody until they can figure out where placement will take place. And so that's how that is going to play out. But obviously, I mean, from by the grace of God, the Samaritan that found her, to other people, I mean, obviously there's a huge interest in the baby and wanting to provide it a safe home. So. Oh, and the baby's great. Healthy baby girl, like I said, 5 pounds, 13 ounces. Checked on her this morning. She's still at Grady. She's eating fine, and she's doing fine, and she's, she's great. So.
Why did the mom choose this particular doorstep? How close did she live to this house?
Right. So in subsequent interviews with her, we will ask that question. We don't have the answer to that question right now, and how she chose that specific house. So that will, we hope, come out during the rest of the course of our investigation.
Was the mother with the 22-year-old when you went to find her? Have you spoken much to the family?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we've been speaking with the mother of the child, and so yes, we have been in communication with the mother. And the mother's been the mother was deceived as well by her daughter. The mother had no idea that she was hiding this pregnancy under her own roof. And so obviously you can feel for the mother as well in learning that all this took place with her daughter.
Has
So.
she said that there's been any abuse in the family or anything?
No.
As to why she hid the fact?
No, I think it was more she hid the fact because she was scared that her mother would kick her out, and it would be a situation where she would no longer be welcome in the home if she was to have a baby there. Whatever that dynamic is, I'm not sure, but I think that was the scenario.
Do you know if she was aware of the secret, the safe place law and just panicked, or was she not aware that she could take the baby?
Right. So obviously, I mean, that's something that we'll ask. I mean, but if you think about it, if you look at it as a reasonable person, any reasonable person would understand, hey, I have a newborn baby here that I don't want to keep. Go to the hospital. Go to the fire station. Come to us. I mean, I think a reasonable person would understand that just a random house on a random street at 1 o'clock in the morning is not the appropriate way to handle that.
Where did she give birth?
So we believe that she gave birth inside the apartment where she lives with her mother while her mother was not there. And so, but that is not verified, so I can't say that is fact. But initial indications are that that is where it took place.
Did she express any remorse for what happened?
Yes, so she did, you know what I mean? And that's why, you know, she did reach back out, you know, several hours later. But, you know, unfortunately, her conduct, I mean, she has to answer for that kind of conduct. I mean, that's reckless. You can't just do that. I mean, there's other ways to go about that. And so, you know, that's why it's unfortunate that we have to charge her. But she also has to answer for those consequences for those actions.
Did anyone
So-
help her deliver the baby?
She said that she was alone when she had the baby herself. So, as a man, I'm not really sure how that would work, but that's what she indicated to us. So,
How does the
far
department
did-
feel about this baby? And because I know most of you guys have children of your own.
right.
And what do you guys feel about that? You got to be pulling your heartstrings.
Right. So my whole special victims unit team, we've been talking about it all week, and we've been involved with it all week, and it's emotional. And most of us have kids. I have kids, and it kind of gets you elevated. You know what I mean? And then again, you have that initial outpour of, you know what I mean? I want to adopt a baby. I want to adopt a baby. I mean, you get it stirs up a lot of emotion. You know, which is why all of you are here today. And so that's why it's important that we let people know that Georgia has a safe haven law, and we let people know that, you know, when you act in a reckless manner, there are consequences.
How far does she live, like where she gave birth? How far is this house where she dropped the baby off?
It's, I mean, geographically, I don't have, you know, an exact distance, but I would say in the general area.
And I know the lady called around 1:30, but what time do you guys think she actually dropped the baby off at the house?
Right. So we have been trying to determine the timeline. You know, we think obviously she dropped the baby off, banged on the door and left, and the resident woke up and answered the door. So I mean, we don't think that there was that much time that went by. So, but again, if you think about it, a random house in the middle of the night at 1 a.m. I mean, what if she didn't answer? What if she was, you know, sound asleep? What if she wasn't home? What, you know, there's just so many different bad ways that could have gone.
Did the mother say anything about a history of mental health or anything like this?
No, so there were no indications of any mental health or prior mental health issues.
Let's go ahead and wrap up.
Does she have any other
One more
children?
question?
Yes, one other child, we believe. Yes,
Did the 22-year-old has another child?
correct.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.